Hi guys, my name's Steve and I'm a happily engaged client of Match Guarantee, and I'm here to share my experiences and lend a helping hand to you guys that are also on this journey, because it sure isn't an easy one. Our topic today is Ukraine dating costs. Now, to subscribe to our channel now and smash the bell so you don't miss out on all 37 Bachelor auditions that are already up or will be coming soon. Also, if you smash the bell now, YouTube will notify you when we go live with the pilot reality TV show. If you haven't seen our Bachelor videos, here's a quick look of a snippet from one.
I was having tea in a Lviv cafe when a stranger asked me if he could join me. Being Canadian, I was happy to oblige him. But then the next thing I knew, I felt a strange kind of dizziness. When I suspected that my tea had been drugged, I got up to leave. Then out of nowhere, I was grabbed, thrown in a car, driven out into the dark snowy woods, assaulted, robbed, and left for dead in a field. If a Ukrainian Good Samaritan had not seen my snow-covered body, I wouldn't be alive today to tell you my story. I woke up in what looked like a war-torn Lviv hospital with doctors standing over me. My survival journey is another chapter. My name is Dennis Novoselsky, and I'm a bachelor number 1 in the contest, Who Wants to Marry a Foreigner?
All right. So, again, today we're going to be looking at all the costs of dating in Ukraine in the United States dollar and contrast that with the cost of living in Ukraine. Flight information will be different for everyone, but what I'm going to show you is the flight that I just booked for myself in June and the corresponding prices of everything that I plan on spending or know I will spend. So, first of all, the first thing, as you can see here, is the plane ticket. I use Priceline.com. I found that to be the cheapest place for me to be able to get to Ukraine. And you can see the price there is $1,146. While I'm in Ukraine, me and my fiance plan on doing a little sightseeing and visiting some of her relatives. So I will be renting a car while I'm there. Normally, I would not rent a car. Normally, I would be using Uber, but considering some of her relatives live near Odessa, I'm going to be renting a car this time. So the regular cost was $280, but with taxes and all the other fees involved, it's going to cost $311 for this week. I'll be there. What I have kind of looked at was the fuel costs. Now, what I have budgeted is 40 gallons. The current cost, looking at it this afternoon in Ukraine, was $3.92 per American gallon. So that's kind of a good comparison of what it costs over there. So as you can see, I've budgeted roughly about $157 for that. Accommodations. Now, my favorite place I stay is called the Incognito Hotel. I found it on Booking.com. I've gone back there every time. I've loved it. I like the people there. It's very safe. It's in the embassy district, so it's where I usually stay. And the staff goes out of their way to make me feel good. They're able to do things for me, like they're always there to press my clothes or wash them if need be. And yes, there's a little charge on that, but it's really incremental with that. So accommodations for me for a week, $271 at that hotel. Again, I use Booking.com for that. Food. Now, for me, I budgeted roughly about $40 per day. Now, for the most part, we'll be eating fruit for breakfast or something similar to that. So breakfasts aren't included in there, but again, this is for 2 people. We're not, if you're dating someone, you might want to bring a little bit more because you might be going to a little bit better a restaurant every once in a while. Or if you're going to go the cafe route or other restaurants in the area by Independence Square, for example, 40 bucks is more than enough to get you a couple of meals and do that. But again, myself, I don't drink alcohol. So if you do drink alcohol, enjoy that. That's something to add into the price for this kind of representation. The next thing I always put is $50 for Uber. Now, I won't be hopefully using Uber that much on this trip because I have a car, but there will be times, I'm sure, if we're downtown or we're going somewhere and we need to Uber around. I just roughly put a $50 in that. Well, if I'm don't rent the car, if I Uber to say my flat where I'm staying or the hotel, it's all going to be there. The most expensive trip I've ever taken by Uber is from the airport into the city. So that will kind of give you a good representation. The taxis there are going to kill you if you use them. The costs are, I paid for a taxi one of my times there, and it was about $40, which is a big ripoff, huge ripoff. And I wouldn't do that. But again, what the problem is, sometimes if you don't have a card for your phone, you go in there and you're trying to use Wi-Fi from the airport to book an Uber. Sometimes you can get lost or it won't go through. So it's something to always look at. Sometimes you're just going to have to bite the bullet and use a cab because the person speaks English and can get you where you need to go. So that's my thing on Uber with that. Now, a couple of other things that you'll need to have is COVID tests. Now, currently you're going to need a COVID test to get into Ukraine and a COVID test to get into the United States. Canada is a little bit different. I'm not sure about Canada, but for the United States, for me, this is my budget here. It's $55 is the place I'm going to do it. It's going to be like a next day test. I'll get the results in 24 hours. Same with when I'm over in Ukraine. Even if I use the airport one, it's between $55 and $60. I'll probably end up going to a much cheaper place that my fiance can recommend and take me to, so it won't most likely cost me that much. Another thing is, and it's two spots down there, is insurance costs. Now, in order to go to Ukraine, in order to get into the country past immigration, you have to also show them a certificate of a Ukrainian company that will issue you insurance for your stay for COVID. For me, for a week, that cost ended up being $8.26. What I will do is I will print it out. Same with the COVID tests. Not wise to have them on your phone. It's best to have printed out copies so you can hand them to immigration as you go through. It's best to have everything in like a document folder or something, so when you're ready to go, and it's probably going to be a long line, you'll have everything there. You can just give it to the agent and get through relatively fast. Tourism, that's something I enjoy going and see things I have not seen before. There's different places. There's an air museum that I haven't been to in Kiev that I would like to go to. There's other places that my fiance wants to take me that I'll end up paying for. So my budget with that is around $50. And then I have an incidental cost of $50. And what that for is, when I get to Ukraine, usually after my luggage has gone through 3 different airports and banged around, usually I like to have my dress shirts and my dress pants pressed again. So at my hotel where I like to stay, they'll do that for me. And so I always put an incidental cost of around $50 to have with me. So what is the total cost of my trip when I go to Ukraine? The total cost is going to be $2,433. So that's playing what I'm spending on that. Some people will end up spending a little bit more. It depends on the person. Now, there's prepayments. I paid for my flight. I've already paid for my flight. My accommodations I haven't paid for, but I will pay for before I go over. My insurance I will pay for before I go over. And my first COVID test is I will pay for before I go over. So the cash needed, what I will plan on spending, is around $953. So I will bring, of course, more than that. And of course, I will have my credit card if all else fails. I do have, because I've gone there multiple times, I do have a world credit card. So it doesn't hit me with a lot of extra fees to do money conversions and that kind of thing. So hopefully, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But that's my budget for going to Ukraine this coming June. So now what we're going to look at is the costs of living in Ukraine. What does my fiance, for example, what does she live with every day? What are her costs of living in Ukraine?
Place to rent, an apartment in Ukraine, and where are the best jobs for expats, for you guys in Ukraine? We get that question a lot. And where should I live in Ukraine if I'm going to come to Ukraine? It's actually a big country, 40 million plus people. Where should I live? And then, of course, the granddaddy question: what city has the most beautiful women? Let's take a look at the stats we pulled from Numbeo. We chose top 37 cities basically that were in Numbeo. So you've got the population, so you can see you're not living in a village, you're living in an actual city. And then the next column, regional center, that tells you whether or not it is a regional center. If it says 0, it's a regional center. If it's got number of kilometers to the regional center, you're not in the regional center. I.e., like how many conveniences are going to be in this place, in the city I'm going to live, because you want to have a comfortable standard of living, right? Then the next column is the cost of living. That does not include rent. Column E is flat prices to purchase in column E, 700 square feet. Then monthly salaries after tax. Tax? What tax in Ukraine? Column, is it G, is flat rent. Then poverty gap. This is interesting. So I calculated this out. It's not in Numbeo. It's basically the shortfall you have between your income and your total expenses, including rental expenses. So it's interesting, hey guys, you can see that in every city, people don't make enough to pay their monthly nut, their monthly cost of living. My beautiful Anya is going to go through the different categories of expenses and kind of explain what the average Ukrainian person lives like on those numbers.
We will talk about rent, yes. So as you can see, with this kind of income, average person cannot rent a flat for, only for herself. Young people, they come to go to live to bigger cities. They found a job, and then it's very popular in Kiev or Odessa, when flat owners, they give you for rent just beds. So you live, for example, for girls live in 2 bedrooms flat, gather together for payment for rent.
What's the quality of flats most Ukrainian people live in?
Flat?
Yeah, quality, Kiev compared to like Sumy or Poltava or smaller cities.
Young generation, they live in old Soviet Union buildings. It do matter in big city, for example, in Kiev, where situated flat, how close to underground, because it's the way how you can easily get, somewhere. Because Ukrainian people use a lot of public transportation. If you talk about food, expenses. Ukraine culture be very traditional in this way, and also like very healthy. People like to eat at home. I mean, if you will talk about fast food, it's not very popular in our country. Normally, when, for example, it's a family, husband go at work, wife can give him something to eat at dinner time.
And then transportation, hun, what's kind of the average Ukrainian person?
All right. So the first thing we talked about is in the cost of living thing is how much it costs to rent or to own a flat. Now, for my fiance's, she actually owns her flat. It's been passed on through her parents to her. So she doesn't pay quote unquote rent. But what she does pay is utility costs. And when we get to that, you're going to see that the utility costs are pretty high in Ukraine versus what we would think of even here. She pays more for heating and electricity, for example, than I do in Albany, Oregon, USA. So that's something we can look at as we'll keep going on. The other thing, food. You know, that's one thing. She said it's not very popular to eat fast food. Yes, that is true over there. And that's one thing they think all Americans do is they eat McDonald's 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And that's why we're all fat. So that's just one of those things that you have to show. And I know my fiance will be shocked when she sees where I live and that her city has 10 times the amount of McDonald's as mine does. But anyway, that's just part of it. So let's get back to the video and talk about transportation.
Person use for transportation and costs?
A lot of people use public transport, even if they have a possibility to buy a car, for example, used car. Traffic in big cities, so they say it's much more convenient using just public transport, and it's really cost very cheap. For example, underground cost 8 hryvnias.
Very cheap.
Yeah. Then marshutka, so small bus.
Minibus, yeah.
Minibus, 10 to 15 hryvnias, doesn't like divided by 29 will be dollars, $0.50. But then again, if they have car, it's normally one car in a family. It's not like 2 cars or 3 cars.
And how about Uber, honey? What's the cost of Uber in Ukraine?
Uber also cheap, I mean, compared to West.
Very cheap. 20 minutes would be a couple of bucks in Uber. $2-3 for 20 minutes in a taxi. Very cheap. Okay, clothing. Ooh. Clothing and shoes. Your personal favorite.
And let's go back to Uber for a second. There's one thing that I will make sure that you go. One mistake I made my first trip to Ukraine was even though I had my credit card, the alerts, so the travel alerts on for several different for Ukraine, for example, Uber in Ukraine, the charges come out of Amsterdam. So I was having problems getting my trips approved via my credit card in Ukraine for Uber. And once I found that out, once I called the customer service and figured that out, and they put the okay on it for Amsterdam as well, the Netherlands, I didn't have a problem after that. So make sure that when you do travel, you have the travel alerts off, and you make sure, again, the Netherlands and Ukraine if you're going to use Uber. That's just a simple thing that you'll find it make your life a lot easier if you do that.
In Ukraine, about clothing, what we have the biggest Kharkov, it's city where produced a lot of Ukrainian clothes and shoes factories. And then we have China, of course, supply, and then we have even from Europe what was not sold in Europe shops, they deliver it to Ukraine. Sports, it's wouldn't be more than 7%. Yeah, here it's 6%.
But sports is a very important component of Ukrainian people's life, right? They work out. In the West, we get fat and sloppy. We don't go to the gym, but here they really pride themselves on their look, so they go to the gym. Surprisingly, they only spend 6% on sports and their vacations.
Again, now talking about clothes there, for example, the clothes there for my fiance's, from her point of view, the other ladies that I happen to know in Ukraine, a lot of them prefer European brands. They say the Chinese brands usually don't fit well, they are too small, or they fall apart really fast. So they really prefer European brands or Western brands. For example, my fiance loves Calvin Klein. And anything I can buy her, it could be a burlap sack. If it says Calvin Klein on it, she's good to go. She loves it. So, that's something to keep in mind. Again, don't be buying or going to the store, and unless you are engaged or something like that, but don't go on a spending spree with a lady. But if you do, those are the kind of brands she's going to want to buy. So just keep that in mind. Sports, it's another thing. Most of the ladies I know over there, more so than the men, but the ladies love to go work out. They work out right after their work and they ride the bike, or they take yoga or do something like that. A lot of them use personal trainers or have access to a trainer at the health club they work at, and they do that right after work, and it's part of their routine. That's what this lockdown has been pretty difficult, I know, for a couple of different ladies that I've talked to over in Ukraine, is not being able to work out as the gyms are closed. So, that's something that maybe in the West I think is getting more and more popular, but in Ukraine, it's part of life, what they do all the time. So let's get back to the video.
How do they vacation on less than 6% of their budget?
Yeah, the most poor people, they just go in Ukraine. We have Black Sea and we have Azov Sea. Azov Sea is good for children because it's very
shallow,
yeah,
knee deep. For how far out? How far do you have to walk out before?
Crazy, I don't know. If you will ever will be deep. Actually, the problem is that sometimes you can pay bigger money than if you will fly to Egypt. That's why Ukrainian people, are very cautious about choosing a vacation in Ukraine compared to go to close Turkey or Egypt. And Egypt, very friendly oriented. They even now canceled visa for Ukrainian people. Before it was $25.
Okay, last category here is
vacation spots. Again, this is something that I'm going to be experiencing when I go to Ukraine. Is my fiance's relatives, a lot of them live near Odessa. So when I've looked at booking.com at some of the motel prices down there, it's a lot more than I thought I was going to end up spending, or spend, for example, in Kiev. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you do go to Odessa, the costs there. As far as my fiance, she told me she didn't want to stay in a place with cockroaches. Now, no one does, but when they go on vacation, there's a certain expectation, I should say. So what she would like to do is stay in a resort where it's all encompassing, where you're able to stay, there's a pool and all that, and then go to the beach as you want to, versus just spending all your time at the beach. So that's something to look at when you talk to Ukrainian people. When you are engaged or you get married to someone and you're going over there for vacation, it is something. Now, for Western guys, Egypt, for Canada, it's not a problem. You don't need a visa for that. Dubai, and Dubai for Americans, we can get there when you get there, it's just a $5 cost for a travel visa. Egypt, it's a lot more difficult than that, and you have to get your visa prior to actually going in there. So please keep that in mind. For me, myself, I'm just going to travel, and we'll go to Odessa or around that. We'll probably even visit Joe and Anna, just because we're going to be in the area and visiting some of her relatives. And I'll be introduced to her mother's sisters, her aunts, and one side of the family. So that's just something to keep in mind, and you're going to have to pay accordingly.
Utilities
can be very different from the city. You live at apartment on house. It's very hard now to sell in Ukraine very big house, like 500 square meters, because all Ukrainian people, they understand how much they need to pay for, make it to heat it in winter time.
You guys are always asking us, where are the most beautiful women in Ukraine geographically? So I would just say, Anya and I might have a little tiffle on this, but in the eastern part, they tend to have more Russian features, very beautiful, like Sumy, Poltava. In the west, they tend to have more soft features, softer nose, more European looking. In the south, where we are, again, very beautiful soft features. But I'm gonna say, if I have to say, are there women more beautiful, than others in different geographic locations around Ukraine? I'm gonna say that's not the question to ask. The question is just, where are you gonna meet the most people? Where are you gonna meet the most people? You're gonna meet the most women. So it's a probabilities number, right?
And it's also important that if it's important just number, you want to try with 50 different ladies, of course it's important to be in a big city, But if you focus on the quality, I think country ladies from the small cities, they less demanding, they, better quality if you talk in general.
And along with that, what I will say is that my fiance is from Kyiv, so I'm going to tell you Kyiv has the best looking women around, because my fiance is from there. But other than that, you're going to find, if you do this by yourself, you're going to find a lot more ladies in the big cities, of course. But along with that, if you're doing it by yourself, your risks increase by doing it by yourself. Especially in Odessa, if you've read books on what happens there to a lot of foreigners, they get robbed. There's a lot of more prostitution and things like that. You just have to have your guard up for that. If you go into a small town village, very less likely you're going to run into a lot of that kind of thing. But not to say it can't happen, but again, it's less likely. So anyway, that does it for our live stream today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to write any questions in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Next week, we'll be doing a video again on the CR1 and K1 visas and what's changed in the last couple months, so you can be kept abreast of the different situations and what's happening right now. Okay, we'll see you later. Bye.
Have you been searching for a beautiful wife? Do you dream of meeting the perfect woman, but haven't found her? Well, imagine if there was a simple way this could all change for you. Imagine if there was a Canadian marriage agency that would introduce you to as many beautiful women as it takes until you find the one. Ukraine, a lost world of beautiful traditional women. At last, a place where you can find the beautiful wife you have always dreamed of. Every Ukrainian woman dreams of having a happy family. Now you can have a traditional beautiful wife from Ukraine, creating happy family memories forever. So what are you waiting for? Register right now and Skype our beautiful ladies completely free. So what makes us different, you might ask? Why not ask Google simply by searching Match Guarantee Reviews?